Hey guys and girls, hope you're well. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa and Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. And just our usual Friday drop-in, just to say hi to everyone and just let you know what's happening this coming week, and just to catch up on the past week as well. And as is usually the case that I like to do on these little drop-in chat sessions, is just touch on a topic which has caught my interest during the course of the week. And of course, this week is we're talking about Leah Thomas in particular, which I think many of you are aware of, is the transgendered male swimmer who swam for 3 years as a man for a university team, and then less than a year later was swimming in the women's division and created a huge furore around that. Anyway, I've been watching with interest what's happening there and really enjoying Riley Gaines, who's coming up and standing up for women's sport in a major way. So I'm going to touch on that later, just in a few minutes from now. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me. And yeah, we're just going to look at the upcoming schedule for this week. But before we do that, if you guys have missed this past week, we had some really, really cool shows on. Monday's show was with Yana, my friend Yana Smith. We were speaking about the human-animal conflict, especially with the indigenous nations, not just in Africa, but all over the world, really, because we're finding a common thread. And the law, L-O-R-E, law that the indigenous people live according to, the law of the land, versus the L-A-W, law that the Westerners have imposed, which is really about destruction and possession, and the L-O-R-E, law of the land, which is what the indigenous people subscribe to, is really about living in harmony with nature, living in harmony with animals, living in harmony with each other, and understanding that each being has a place on this earth. And she is doing amazing work. She's doing her PhD now and working with the indigenous tribes in Namibia and really getting some incredible information, stuff that's never been touched on before. And of course, we'll be challenging all sorts of government policies and stuff as she goes along with that, because she's really doing some groundbreaking stuff. So if you haven't caught that interview, please do. It's really cool. And then, of course, Alice Parola that we had on Tuesday. Always great to just check in around, debunking the whole mental health issues and the shame attached to that. And, really speaking about healing, family connection, and how, especially in families, because that's really where it begins, right? Healing begins within, and then you pass it on to the nearest and dearest, which is your family. And so it's like one candle lighting another. And that's what I love about Alice's shows, is that she's very open and actually raw and bears her soul about her journey with bipolar disorder and how her family has helped to heal her and how she's where she is now. So it's really actually quite beautiful. And then, of course, on Wednesday, we had Jessie talking about The Simpsons and this little submersive or whatever it is, little submarine. It's about this long, I think. Very interesting on The Simpsons there, and Matt Groening and his connections to the Freemasons and the predictive stuff coming in from The Simpsons. And we know as well that through the Looking Glass Project and stuff like that, that Jessie's often spoken about, they've used kids in these programs to predict the future. And, so they predict a probable outcome, and then they put it in these cartoons, particularly The Simpsons and South Park. And then in so doing, they goes, oh, they predicted it. I wonder how that happened. But I also believe, when they put that in there, these guys are masterful when it comes to working with energy and understanding how to create what they want. Just because you're creating money and abundance on a superficial level doesn't mean you're a good person, right? They've just understood how to manipulate and work with the laws and how energy works. So they also, I mean, it's my opinion, understanding, I think, a lot of how this works. I definitely don't understand everything. But it's kind of like, just by putting it out there, let's say, for example, they predicted the Trump election and Trump to be president 5 or 10 years ago, for example. It's like, by putting that in a cartoon, it gets people's attention to that point, and it gets energy going to that point. So whether you like it or don't like it, in fact, the more you don't like something, the more you're probably going to create that outcome. So it's like they get people thinking in those areas, whether it be conscious or subconscious. So it's very interesting how these things are working. And we understand, as I said, how these guys, they work with the highest level of sorcery. They know how energy works. They know how to manipulate things. So it's very interesting to see what's going on right now in all of these things. And later on this evening at 5 p.m. my time, which is about 4 hours from now, I have Lera Nikolaev on again, who's that amazingly very, very interesting Ukrainian lady who was, as a child, programmed by the Russians to be a child soldier. She's also a seer, so she has that beautiful gift where, you know, she's able to see and perceive as well as have her experience from that, and very much working with not with knowingly, but she was mind controlled and had avatars created. So very, very interesting story there as well. We've had her on a few times, so if those of you haven't heard her interviews with me before, check those out. Very interesting lady indeed. Anyway, let's see what's coming up. So if we can just pop up that schedule. Quiet week this. As you know, every second week we're really more quiet than the other week. But Tom Althouse is back in the house. So I know we've had plenty requests to have Tom back. And so Tom is back with us again at 6 p.m. my time on Monday, which I do believe would be 11 a.m. Central Time on Monday. We've got Tom back. Bryce is away this week, so we won't see her. And then we'll have Jessie again on Wednesday with a double show. And then I am working, just haven't got confirmation on a couple of other things right now. So keep watching the schedule for updates and stuff like that. There are one or two other ones I am still working on, but they are not confirmed yet. Cool. So I want to just, then what I want to look at now, again, is just a little video clip. That one, as I said, one that intrigued me and grabbed my attention this week, which is really Riley Gaines being interviewed or spoken to by someone on her experience with Leah Thomas. So take a look.
I don't think that everyone who is identifying as trans nowadays actually is struggling with gender dysphoria, and I'm certain that Leah Thomas didn't. I think that experience.
Hold on, that's interesting. Hold on for a second. I don't know if I've heard you say that. You think Leah Thomas is just a total scam, that there is no gender dysphoria?
So I've talked to many trans-identifying individuals who I genuinely do believe struggle with just this gender dysphoria. And they said they're so dysphoric about their gender, they would never feel comfortable openly undressing in front of a room full of the opposite sex. And so my understanding of Leah Thomas is, I do think there's some other underlying mental delusions there. But in my understanding and what I've seen based off of what Thomas has portrayed is this isn't really someone who's transgender. This is a transvestite. And we were subjected to participating in this person's fetish.
Boom, penny drop. What's so interesting about that is that I actually know someone here in South Africa who was many years ago transgendered from biological male to women. And I actually had a conversation with her about that. And I wanted to just hear her take on what her opinion was on all of this going on. And it was so interesting because the first thing she said to me was, well, for starters, if you as a male have such bad body dysphoria, you are not going to change in front of a changing room full of women, full stop. She says, you go to the most secret, secluded place and you don't want anyone to see anything about you, really. And she said to me, that is not a transgender, that is a transvestite. And in that moment, I went, wow. And it was literally within 2 hours of having that conversation with her that I saw this video clip that Riley Gaines had that to say. And it just was such confirmation to me that what we're really dealing with is not body dysphoria. And I think we know that, but this for me, again, is such a confirmation. There are genuinely people, in my opinion, that are born with genuine body dysphoria. And they would be 2 people I actually follow on YouTube. Is a transgendered woman, born biological male, called Alexis. And then the other one is the Blair White Project. And I like to listen to them on this topic because they have such balanced viewpoints. Now, me as a woman, honestly, and I think I can relate to all other women out there when we talk about these topics, I welcome if a man does not feel comfortable in his body and he is really more drawn to the feminine energies and the feminine way of life and really being a woman in that way, we welcome you. We are a nurturing, loving, embracing bunch. We are awesome in that way. We love our gay male friends as well. And we love going to drag shows and listening to the boys who dress up as girls and emulate girls in the funniest way that no woman could ever do, which is what makes it hilarious. And that's what makes it adult entertainment, because we also understand a lot of this entertainment is absolutely adult orientated, right? But there's such a boundary being overstepped now when it comes to transgenderism in a genuine way for someone that is genuine body dysphoria, and literally this misogynistic onslaught of men in women's spaces. And I think a lot of the woke community, females I'm specifically talking about now, don't understand. You know, they also have this welcoming spirit, absolutely, but they don't understand that they're opening up our spaces now to a whole lot of misogynistic men who have nothing good or wholesome or amazing to say about women. They really just, it is a mockery in so many ways. I was watching something that came up as well with some little dude that's now calling himself a girl, and I'm sorry, in my opinion, that's what it is, who's bragging about his Gucci pooch now. And I think you all know what I'm talking about. And telling us women how jealous we are of his Gucci pooch. I mean, at that, I've just got to laugh, right? Because how does one even begin to take stuff like that seriously? But sadly, there's such a big woke community that is going in that direction. I mean, I saw someone else, clearly male, beard on the face, long hair, hugely overweight, obviously, threatening women if we dare to try and get him out of our bathrooms. So this is exactly the problem that we're having, that we're facing, or the challenge, right? And I like to think every challenge has a solution. So I'm putting this out there because I think everyone has so many different ideas and opinions on this thing. I think on a deeper level, we understand the nefarious agenda behind this, you know, this absolute pushing this ideology on our kids, encouraging kids to butcher their bodies and really regret it afterwards, which is why I want to also just say to look at if Morné can maybe post the clip that we actually did the other day, posted the other day as well, on this movie that's just been cancelled on these 8 transgender people, male and female, that have transgendered and have had really bad experiences. And amidst all this other chaos these last few days, this was cancelled. So if we can just post the link there, and you guys can just, they're asking to join and, you know, just follow their website. So, you know, there can be a viewing of this movie on some way. So there we go. We got it now in the link there. So, if, you know, and just share it, please, you know, because this stuff is so, so, so important, especially for confused kids. But anyway, you know, so the whole thing is, but then of course I'm well aware there's a whole, and I think it's called intersex. There's a whole section of people born intersex. Now, I'm not 100% sure. I did ask Morné, and it seems to be, but like, I mean, I lived in Thailand as well. So I spent many hours, you know, speaking to many amazing people. And in Thailand, there's quite a large section of the community that is born ladyboys, okay? Now, ladyboys are hermaphrodites, basically. They are born with both female breasts and male genitals. Now, I don't know, I have to say, what reproductive system they're born with, but mostly they will identify as women. So hence the lady boy. And I've spent my hairdresser in Thailand was a lady boy, identifying fully as a female, but when she was younger, identified as a boy. So, but there's no issues around that. It's an accepted part of society that these women, and they're mostly, from what I know, they really enjoy being referred to as women. So I can understand there's a lot of men who like that. And as I say, I speak about the Blair White Project and this Alexis, amazing, so respectful, you know, respectful of our spaces, respectful of our sensitivity, respectful of all sorts of things. But the problem is now we're not dealing with transgenderism. We are dealing with a whole bunch of transvestites, men dressing up as women and demanding that they be treated as women by women and accepted by women as women within our communities. Now, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit territorial when it comes to being a woman. I think all of us women can identify the challenges we faced, not just emotionally and globally, but just in terms of our health. You know, who likes to go to a gynecologist? Certainly no one I know. You know, the health issues we face, you know, the breast cancers, the ovarian, all of that sort of stuff that we as women face on a daily basis, the menstrual problems, you know, and then part of this woke agenda is that, well, now when a woman stops menstruating, she's no longer a woman. I'm like, are you insane? That's a natural part of life, you know? So there's so much misunderstood ideology around this. And I think that generally as a community, it would be great to see what people have to say. You know, my opinion is, if you want to, no one is saying don't partake in sports against women. No one is saying don't partake in sports. But what I am saying, well, then have your own category of sports. You know, you can't expect as a biological male, not even having transitioned for a year, now to be swimming against women. And if you guys have been following Riley Gaines, I mean, there's a whole, I mean, she's been interviewed, she's been in all sorts of places. I've been watching her and really speaking a lot of sense and, you know, standing up for women's rights in sports. And basically one of the people was saying, well, Serena Williams, a man can never beat her, or most men can't beat Serena and Venus Williams. And it turns out, well, the man ranked about 220th in the world beat them both. So we can't, you know, there's this whole big problem that we're facing, and we understand where it's coming from. But the question is, how do we deal with it, and how do we protect our children from this? Because here in South Africa as well, they're now starting to impose on even homeschooling. I was watching something the other day where all these hectic laws are now going to be imposed on homeschooling as well. So we're sitting in a tight spot with a lot of things. I think we're being, there's just so much going on, with this whole transgenderism, and I think is a big thing right now, and that's a big thing they're trying to cover, definitely. And of course, the sexualizing of our kids. And I mean, I've said before that even though we've had the Britneys and the Rihannas and everything before that, none of these women were going into schools, and we weren't having strippers and pole dancers and prostitutes telling our kids how cool it is to have that life, right? And I'm not judging anyone who may have that life. Everyone has their choice, but I really think that every parent should be left to encourage their child discerningly. And let's just face one thing as well about everyone, even these guys who transition and are very respectful in women's spaces. There's something about a woman that can never be denied. It's the essence that we carry as women, right? A woman has an essence that can never be emulated. So I think rather than get upset that we are being encroached upon and women are feeling so defensive and threatened, absolutely, I agree that we are. But let us never forget that we are women. And doesn't matter what anyone else thinks or says, as a woman, you are the creator of life. You are the creator of ideas. You are the creator of children. You are a mother, you're a grandmother, you're a crone, you're a wise woman. And the more you sit in that power of yours, the softer you become, but yet the more powerful you become and the more magnetic you become. And then it becomes easy to see who's like a little boy playing dress up in mommy's high heels, tottering around. And I know it probably sounds a little bit disrespectful saying that, but that's really what it looks like when you see someone trying to emulate your very essence. They don't have that. Only you have that. And that is your power. And on that note, I think I've said all I need to, but I want to just quickly check some of the comments here. Yeah, thanks, Al. I'm just looking at that when we were speaking earlier on about Yana. This is why all of Africa is systematically attacked. Absolutely. They are the largest group of humans that understand the earth, and the indigenous tribes are the last hope for this world to understand the earth. Absolutely. And it takes people in positions that can actually make this knowledge available again. And Yana is certainly doing that. And I'll tell you something, this channel is certainly doing that as well. And it's interesting that those are the lowest views we get, right? On the views, on the recordings we do. The ones that people really need to understand. Everyone is seeking healing. Everyone is seeking a peaceful earth. Yet what I observe and have for a very long time is everyone is looking outside of themselves for the answer. The answer does not lie in someone outside of you. Use people outside of you as flagpoles, if you will. But the answers are here in your heart and in your relationship with God. Because when you do that, you're never going to go wrong. And then you're going to automatically want to go back to your roots. It's a natural next step. Your body wants to give up plastic lifestyles and fast cars and 10 of them, but it doesn't mean you don't enjoy wonderful things in life, because you certainly do. You enjoy them on a much, much deeper, much more fruitful level. And then you listen to people like Yana and you understand what she's saying. And I find it always interesting that these are the videos or the recordings that get the lowest views. But they're the information we actually need the most. Karen, yeah, don't worry, I'm in contact there. Thank you. I was just speaking to Morné about that before the show as well. So yeah, I would love to have Roseanne Barr on our show. So guys, send your positive vibes that she appears on our show. She's definitely one of those I'd like to. Yeah, new zesty misogyny. Very vast difference between playful and parody. Yeah, absolutely. That's true, Courtney. There's a vast difference between the playful parody and the homage and the mean-spirited mockery. Absolutely, it is. And I think that's where we just have to be discerning and not get caught up in that trap. Because remember, everything in life is energy. You are energy. You were spiritual before you were physical. And after you're physical, you're spirit again. It's all energy. So when you get caught up in fighting and getting, even if you think you are defending a massive cause and you get hugely passionate about it and you start throwing fireballs back at them, all you're doing is creating more fire. So align, get to know who you are, get to understand your connection to God, and in that way, none of this affects you in a massively impactful way. No, they often keep the male aggression in the female form. Yes, exactly. That's crazy. That's what you're saying there. They often keep the male aggression in the female form. Messing with hormones gets dicey and urging kids to unnecessary surgeries. The sheer butchery totally is. So yeah, I think we're all kind of on the same path here. Sorry, I'm actually very happy because I heard we're not meant to multifunction. Because when I'm talking, it's very difficult for me to watch the comments, especially when I'm on my own. So yeah. Anyway, guys, I'd love to hear, what you think about this, because as I said, from my experience, there's definitely a third gender, which is the intersex, or I don't know if it's the same, I might be wrong. Intersex, from my understanding, is they have both, as well, and that, in my opinion, my understanding is what the ladyboys are. So, but there again, I've also spent lots of time with the ladyboys in Thailand. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Really, really cool people. And hugely identify as women. Hugely. And have all the traits and respect and, but they identify well with both sexes. That's the thing. They can have conversations with men equally as well as what they can have conversations with women. That's my experience, okay? And I'm not talking about on the whole, the sex scene in Thailand now. I know that's a whole different conversation. We understand everything has an underbelly. But I'm also just talking about the human beings and the people that, embody these spirits that truly do enjoy being both, but have enough respect and grace to understand that if you're going to use a woman's bathroom, you do not threaten a woman and her child. Because I'll tell you something, if I'm in that bathroom and I've got my granddaughter with me and you are threatening her, you're going to see a side of me that I promise you I probably haven't even seen yet. So, it's like a mother lioness and her cubs. Don't ever take her cubs away from her. And I think that's what we've got to go back to, is understanding how nature works. Again, I'm going to ask you guys to go and watch Yana's video sounds so 1983 recording, whatever it is. We talk about that as well, the feminine principles in the tribes. And really the feminine principles are the true leaders when it comes to understanding. So it's up to us as women, and not just women, men as well. There are many men out there, and we just got to see it protecting women's rights right now. It's awesome to see because everything just feels so crazy. But anyway, I'm very happy that you all here. I don't feel so crazy. Great to see you all. Hello, Prince. Nice to see you. Rui, yes, absolutely. Okay, guys, I can go nattering on forever, but I'm going to say fare thee well now. I will see you later in about 4 hours' time with Leah Nikolaev on designer babies. Very interesting again how we're going to look at a whole different aspect of how these guys do things and the dodgy means that they do them with. Cool. Have an awesome, 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 awesome day and a wonderful weekend. And God bless you all. Mwah. Take good care of yourselves. And we'll see you soon. Cherry byes.